Hello and welcome to Yesterday's Airlines, and in this video it's time to take another look at the new models that have arrived in the hangar. And as it is October, the September NG models have just arrived that I've purchased. And so in this video we're going to take a quick look through those models and give them an unboxing. I haven't actually taken them out of the box yet, so this truly is an unboxing. Now, what models have we got available to look at this month? Let's go one by one. We first off have got Transavia 757-200 here. That's model number one. That's followed up by the other classic 757 of the month from Europe, the Icelandair 757. Next up, it's the American Airlines Astrojet, or flagship, 757. And moving out into bigger types, we've got the Air New Zealand 7879 and, not surprisingly, the pair of United 747 SPs, both in the Sawbass livery, but one with small titles and the Friendship 1 elements, and the other with the larger Sawbass titles. So those are the models that we're going to be looking through in this video. It was quite an interesting release month, September. The announcements were good. I hadn't actually bought any models from the month before. Nothing really jumped out at me enough, and there wasn't a lot of classic stuff going at all. This month had some interesting models, obviously, as you can see, because I've purchased 6 of them. I've got both the SPs and the only 787 as well. I didn't get the Qatari A350, and I didn't get any of the A330s, of which there was a DHL and a Eurowings example. And in terms of the 757s, I got 3 of the 4. I'm not at all interested in modern cargo 757s. ASL Airlines, it was barely a livery anyway, it's almost a blank model. And I didn't actually get any of the 737-800s, either of which there was another American Airlines. I would have been interested in that if it had not had winglets. And there were 3 Copas. So those are the models that are released. I've acquired these 6. Let's get in the side of the boxes and have a quick look around and see what they're like. Okay, so first up we're going to look at the Transavia. It's wearing this very attractive scheme that Transavia wore during the 90s. Transavia was obviously, I think it still exists actually as a KLM subsidiary, but at the time it was an independent charter airline and also flew scheduled services. I remember seeing them at Gatwick a lot with their 737s. So it's great to have a bit more Transavia, and it's good to have this attractive scheme as well. So let's get this out of the box and see how she looks. And because I haven't opened these up yet, I don't usually have issues with NG models in terms of quality, but you never know. This stuff happens from time to time. And it's looking already as if everything is connected in the right place. So I'll bring her up onto the viewing box, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I can see already. I think that the scheme is a very attractive scheme, quite unusual. It's kind of wave, kind of along the fuselage, and nice greens and blues making up the colours. I'm never really sure why Transavia had a green scheme. It's not very Dutch, but nonetheless, the model's looking good. Everyone surely knows this is a fabulous 757 by now, so they can really do very little wrong in terms of producing models of it. And I'm a big fan of classic aircraft, and although this isn't really classic, I guess, because it's from the 90s, but I guess for my younger people, for younger people out there, it is classic, and the 90s was a long time ago. For me, it was obviously, didn't seem that long ago. I was a teenager during the 90s, and I occasionally would see Transavia 757s, though they were nowhere near as common at UK airports as they were at Sunseeker destinations like Palma. But nonetheless, I think this is looking pretty good, and can't see any obvious faults, though. Haven't actually spent any time looking at the real thing, so you never know. But otherwise, usual high quality job there, I think. Nice scheme, great mould, hard to fault in terms of what they've produced here as a finished article. Very nice 757 So yeah, happy with that first purchase. That's looking good. Okay, next up is Icelandair. And NG have produced quite a lot of Icelandair 757s already, 4 or 5 I think, but none of them wearing the scheme which I would prefer, which is this scheme, the first scheme that dates from, again, the 80s and 90s. And I remember at this time, Icelandair was a much smaller airline than it is today. I think it only bought a couple of 757s initially and was operating those alongside 737-400s on routes such as, you know, Heathrow and such, as a kind of standard kind of scheduled airline, and not the kind of hopping across the US leisure airline that it has become since. But I am super happy to see this scheme come out. It's not particularly exciting, I guess, but nowadays cheap lines are super rare, and it's an attractive scheme which has elements of the Icelandic flag on it, really nicely done. So let's see again if this one matches the Transavia in terms of the reproduction. And again, glad to see there are no obvious QC issues here. Just get rid of the insert so we can take a better look. It's looking good. It's looking very good. Okay, so that's up here, and let's get her up onto the box. Really nice. I mean, one of the things I like about the NG 757s is the cockpit printing, which is really nicely done. And this one's particularly good. And you can see they've got the name of the aircraft very. What's it? Fendia. Really nicely printed on the nose there. I mean, the printing detail on NG models is superb. And you can see moving along that the Rolls-Royce engines got the logo on, some really nice detailing. And I bet if you look underneath, as always, there will be some really high quality printing here, because that's what you get with NG. So super nice. Looks good across the board. TFFII is the reg, and another really nice 757 actually. I really love NG 757s, and you know, I would quite gladly have them releasing more of these in favour of more modern aircraft, because it is one of my favourite aircraft, and there's still a lot of really nice retro 75s to be made, which I'm really hopeful to see. So this is a good start, because it's the first time in a while that there's been European 757s, which I'm really keen on. Okay, so that's model 2. It's 2 for 2 so far. They're both looking excellent. Let's see what our third 757 looks like. Model number 3 is the American Airlines 757 jet flagship, wearing the retro colours that were, I think the scheme dates from the 90s, this version of it, but obviously the original scheme is the scheme pretty much that American Airlines wore from the post-war to into the jet age, was replaced by the Astrojet or squashed egg scheme. It's a lovely scheme. I've got the Gemini version of this model, and I'm happy to replace it with NG 757s because they're so much nicer than the old Gemini. It's been a while since I've replaced any other old Gemini 75s. I think the last one was probably the other American 757 they released in standard colours. There are lots of old Gemini 75s which are still quite nice models, but not as nice as they would be if they'd been released by NG, so hope to see more of those. This is nice to see another one ticked off. Let's see how she looks outside the box. It's like the, there we go. Once again, I do like the packaging that NG use. It gives you a feel of security for the models, and again, no issues here in terms of what you're seeing. What you see straight up here, it's all looking, you know, very nice. Beautiful silver scheme. Looks great on the 757, as it does tend to on long thin jets, like it did on their 707s and Convair 990s. You can see that it's got some really nice detailing, the white around the blue on the letters, and the detailing on the blue detailing around the edge of the lightning bolt itself is super nice as well. Let's try to get that focus. There we go. You can see it really clearly there. I think American tiles above the door. That just looks spectacular. Really classy scheme, and really nice reproduction on, you know, one of my favourite 400 scale moulds. It's nice that you can see the panelling in the tail actually. With this kind of simple tail livery, it doesn't hide it like a lot of schemes do. And again, really crisp detailing, no obvious errors, fabulous printing. Got to say, this could be the best of the three actually. Just looks great with a natural metal finish on it, and yeah, can't really argue with the quality of this release. That's looking very, very good. There we go. Yeah, what can I say? It's another lovely model. I think that it's a much better model than the completely blank ASL grey model they released this month. But at the same time, I'm sure there are younger collectors out there who are desperate to get boring cargo 757s as opposed to these lovely retro passenger ones. But this month at least we get 3 good classic 75s and only 1 boring new one. Anyway, I'll stop moaning on about that and get back to the models. It's a great release, and so that's 3 for 3. So let's see how the wide bodies fare and see if they're as good as these nice 757s. Until recently, I didn't really collect a great deal of Air New Zealand, which is a bit weird considering I live in New Zealand, but that's changed in recent times, and I have been trying to expand my fleet in a way which, you know, is gentle as opposed to just buying a ton of New Zealand aircraft all at once. I hadn't had this scheme on a 787, so it's nice that NG have come along and released it. I think it's been made previously by Phoenix. And I like NG 787s. I think they're really nice. They're perhaps, the mould in detail isn't perhaps as good as a JC, but it's incredibly close to being as good. And you can trust the NG release cycle, whereas you just never know when jcwings are going to get their releases out, do you? So it's just reliable. It's easier to buy the NG version, and the model is going to be pretty much as good as anything anyone else is going to make anyway. And again, there are obviously no QC issues straight out of the box. Everything's attached and the model's looking flash. Got a really nice box with it as well, this model, I have to say. In fact, all the NG boxes tend to be good. They tend to spend a lot of effort putting the boxes together. I noticed that the 3 Copa 737s that they released this month, the boxes join together to make a kind of display, which is quite interesting. But not interesting enough that I'm going to buy models for boxes. But it's a nice touch anyway. And you can see here that the livery looks great. I actually prefer the All Blacks version of this scheme because the fern always looks a little bit weird when it's... Yeah. But anyway, it's a nice scheme. I probably wouldn't prefer in New Zealand not to use black and white as their colours. It's perhaps controversial considering the All Blacks and such, but it might be nicer in blue, but still it's a nice scheme. It stands out, it looks good, and the model has reproduced it really nicely. So again, you've got all the details you'd expect from the Star Alliance logo, and lots of detailing on the wings down to the tail. I mean, it's... Get it in close again if you can get the camera focus. Here we go. You can see again that it's beautifully detailed. And these models really are becoming like little works of art in terms of the detailing and the quality. It's almost a shame you have to display so many together as I do, because you tend to lose a lot of detail when you're not looking at the models individually. You can see you've got the see-through engines, you can see through the fan blades there, that looks great. And overall, we've got some excellent detailing going on. Nice rolling gear, no obvious issues. There's that tiny tyre bud on there, but tiny. And overall, it looks great. The aerials look good. Everything's attached nicely. A really exemplary release. And I guess I could probably say this for almost any of the NG releases, because I rarely get a duff model. I know other people seem to get models with loose parts and things, and somehow I don't seem to see those, even though these are being shipped all the way to New Zealand to me. So that's interesting, but perhaps I'm just lucky. But a really nice model, a really nice release, and that'll go very nicely with my All Blacks 787, which I've got from them as well. So another good model, really so nice that it's just so standard. It's hard to say too much about NG models anymore, because the quality overall is great. Yeah, very pleased with that. Good stuff. So the last two models are the 747 SPs. This mold has had a lot of talking about it, people complaining about the shape of the nose, but it's still the best nose out there on 747, even if it's not 100% accurate. I've talked about this before, and I'm kind of bored of talking about that, so I'm going to stop. We had the Battleship Grey release a few months ago, where the grey was the wrong colour. They haven't made any issues like that with their Saul Basses, and you know, this looks fabulous. I think the Friendship one was released by Gemini probably more than 20 years ago now, on their very first SP mold, which, you know, has a very odd undercarriage and looks poor. So, I mean, I'm sure there'll be people replacing their old version of it. Certainly, obviously, a model from that period cannot compete with the printing detail you're going to get from a model from 2021, or at least it shouldn't be able to. And you can see here, when you look in detail at what you're getting here, if I can get the camera to focus, here we go. Look at that crisp printing there. Around the world for kids. United Airlines, Boeing, Volkswagen for some reason. Pratt & Whitney, the engine makers. Really nice printing detail there. And around the world, speed record, Friendship 1. Don't think it wore these markings for very long at all, probably just for the attempt. Okay, sorry about that, I'm back. Multiple interruptions there. My phones are dicking around, telling me they're disconnected when they're not, and then my son's come in as well. So, usual story. But, nonetheless, where was I with this? It's a really nice version of the scheme, as you can see. I think, you know, it's a really nice 747 SP. No one else is going to be making an SP mold anytime soon. It certainly knocks the spots off of anything JC or Gemini are going to be able to produce using that old mold. And can't see any problems with the way the livery is applied. So, looks good. So let's get out the other 747 SP, which looks very, very similar. Should be almost the same, except obviously it's wearing the slightly later scheme from the, I think it was probably introduced right at the beginning of the 90s and didn't last very long before the battleship scheme came in, but what they really did was lower the cheat line and increase the size of the titles. However, on the 747 SP, they didn't need to actually lower the cheat line, and so the cheat line on this model is in the same place as the cheat line on this model, and it's really just the size of the titles that have increased. So really, it's fundamentally the same model, just with different titles. But the scheme looks better, I think, on the 747 with the big titles, and once again, there are no issues here in terms of build quality on this version of the SP. It's looking good. Everything looks like it's connected quite nicely. Yep, it's all good. And the model looks fabulous. So I do think, you know, like I say, people draw lines up to the nose cones and say, hey, the cheat line should perhaps be lower or in different place, but even though I tend to agree with them, I don't think you can say that the nose on this 747 looks bad. I think it looks very good. Certainly the printing is excellent, probably helps mask any textural issues, and you can see the detail of the model is superb. So really nice, nice black inside the engines, nice detailing underneath and grey undercarriage, and a good shape overall. I think, you know, looking at these two SPs, they both look really good. I can bring the other one into frame as well. And I certainly don't have any issues with buying them. I think they're still some of the best models you can get in 400 scale. So that's 6 for 6, isn't it? I haven't seen any real issues. I haven't looked at the models in detail, and I may well do a review on one or two of these in the coming weeks. So keep an eye out on the YouTube channel, keep an eye out on the website, Yesterday's Airlines, because I may do some detailed reviews, and in those cases I usually find some issues when I compare directly to the actual aircraft. But I see that overall the models we're getting here from NG are superb quality. These, as I say, have shipped all the way to New Zealand across the Pacific. The box was not very well handled at all and has a series of dents in it, so I'm a little surprised they've all come in such good condition. But overall here, I think that if you're looking at these 6 models, then and acquiring these and getting these models, you would not be upset with the quality of what you're receiving here. They are all hitting the spot for me, so I just get out all 6, see if I can get them all in frame. Then, which one is my favourite of the month? That's another tough task to find out, but for me, it has to be one of the 757s, really, for me. I think that if I had to pick one, actually, it's probably the American Airlines individually, which wears the scheme the best, followed by the Icelandair. Really very attractive sextet of models, and very happy with what NG is producing in terms of the quality. Sometimes, obviously, they don't produce models I'd like, but if they produce too many models I'd like, I'd be bankrupt, so it's probably just as well. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this quick look around the NG models from the September announcements, which just arrived in the hangar 2 days ago now, and hope yours arrive in as good condition as these do. Check out all the usual channels, Facebook, Instagram, and the website for more content like this and more talk about these model releases, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.